So because there's been a lot of struggle and effort and you've come up with some great creative solutions to create the bell curves and the graphs that are part of the group activity discussion answer, I wanted to use this as a teachable moment and just show you how easy it is to create a graph and put it into a Word document. So starting out, just opening up Microsoft Word, and the easiest thing to do to start out with is click on the Insert tab that's at the top of your menu, and you're going to want to click on Clip Art. So if you give it just a second, Clip Art, it's going to open up a little window over on the right hand side, and just type in the search area, just type in bell curve. And once you do that, you're going to click on Go, and within the program, software program Microsoft Word, are clip art examples of the bell curve in its library, in the clip art library. So you just grab the bar and you scroll down until you find one that's blank, and here's a good example there. So if you click on it, it'll bring that image over into your Word document, and you can size it, make it a little bit bigger if you want to. So if you've got some room to work, so I'll made that a little bit too wide, then you can get rid of the clip art menu over on the right. So you've got your basic bell curve graph right here. Now go back into the Insert option again, and here's where you're going to be creating a couple of text boxes that allow you to put in the specific values that you compute with your raw data set. Once you've calculated the mean, we're going to position that in the center of the bell curve, and then we will put in the specific values for the standard deviation lines based upon the standard deviation increments. And so for this example, I'm just going to be using last week's answer key for Group A for the first data set. But before we plug in the standard deviation values, then let's put in the standard deviation lines. And for that, we're going to go back up into the Insert option, and now we're going to click on Shapes and just click on a straight line. And what that gives you is a little crosshairs, which will start out with drawing the value in the center of the bell curve for the mean, and just draw that vertical line up to the top of the curve. And when you let go of the cursor, and I'm clicking on the left hand side of my cursor, then it tells the line to stop. And for the second standard deviation line, you have to click on the line up above again and put the crosshairs over the second tick mark for the first standard deviation line to the left of the mean, and so forth. Just repeat that process to draw the lines for each of your standard deviations. So this graph has tick marks under the bell curve for plus or minus 2 standard deviations. So we can draw lines that are visible within the bell curve area up that far. And there may be other bell curve shapes that you find that extend out to encompass the third standard deviation lines. And there's a little tick mark on either side, but we won't draw any lines there. Okay, now to put in the values that you compute to assign specific values for your standard deviation lines, we're going to go back and click on Insert again, and now we're going to click on Text Box. And just a simple text box. Once this is, it'll superimpose itself over your graph, but just grab it and move it down to where you want to, and we can stretch it out so that it just is centered underneath our graph, and then you just highlight the text instructions that are in there and just delete them, and that gives you room to be able to put in the information that you want to. So starting for the first answer key, the mean for this particular graph was 75.25, and so I'm going to type that in first, and then I will put the standard deviation values to the left of the mean in, and then the standard deviation values to the right of the mean in. But to identify the mean first, we're going to go back to Insert and then click on Symbol, and then you can grab a little mu notation. So our mu equals 75.25. Okay. And to the left of the mean, the smallest value that was created is a negative 40.72. That's for the third standard deviation. And for the second standard deviation, it would be a negative 52.23. And for the first standard deviation, it's going to be a negative 63.74. And then we park our mean in the middle. And then to the right of the mean, just increasing value in increments. For this standard deviation, the increments are 11.51. And I'll create another text box here in a second to identify that particular increment. But to the right of the mean, 75.25 plus 11.51 gives us an 86.76. And then the second standard deviation line, and I'm just pushing the space bar to move it over and position it. That's going to be 98.27. So what we did here is we added 11.51 to 86.76. And for our third standard deviation line arrowing over, that's 109.78. Okay. So now you have your standard deviation values specifically assigned based upon your data set, and we can create another text box, just a simple one, and it repositions itself automatically in the center. So we'll just move it off to the left and get rid of the instructions in the center and put in that our standard deviation is 11.51. Okay. So say that this was your document, you're going to want to save it. So File, Save As to whatever your flash drive is. Okay, I'm just going to save it to my desktop since I'm just giving you an example. So this will be Bell Curve Practice is what the name of it is. So I'm going to be saving it. So the reason we're saving this is because you're ultimately going to be continuing to everybody have an opportunity to work on your document that you create each week using the Google Drive or the Google Docs feature, like you've been doing very successfully over the last few weeks. So we want to upload this document into Google Drive so you could continue to collaborate and come up with the answers. So we saved it, Bell Curve Practice, and I'm going to close it out. So now I opened up Google Docs, and we're going to find that particular file and import it. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for a specific document. I'm going to be searching, and it's going to be, actually I'm going to be uploading it. I'm going to select a file from my computer, go to Desktop, and go to Bell Curve Practice, open it up. Okay, and there is the Bell Curve Practice document with the information that we entered into it. And there was a little bit of information lost apparently within the text box or whatever, so you might have to go back in and do a little bit of editing. But you've got the basic information there, and then you can just continue on adding to the document as you see fit.